economic conditions which will allow decentralized growth, which is there for the Aam Aadmi. Therefore, we will still fall back into a bureaucracy or a decision making or a credit institution, etc., which is not ready for that kind of a thing. And we can't build it overnight. Therefore, why Timbuktu is important or something else is important is we now have to go to the next level of building those institutions.
The dangers are very obvious to me, which is that, people have done this kind of work up to a point and then used people to promote their own power, trying to build the kind of institutions which would, in principle, try to represent people. So, a lot of the questions which you are raising, Walter, I would actually question the foundations from which those questions are being raised. Mm-hmm. Because our village is going to think in terms of building institutions. Let's go and ask them. I don't know the answer. Maybe they will. And then the question is, what kind of institutions do they need? For instance, it would be worth asking Ilango at a Vikalp Sangam, what do you think are the kind of institutions that are needed in Tamil Nadu to promote and defend the kind of experiment that Kutumbakam represents? I mean, for instance, one sort of idea I have, is it worth fighting for a proposal to central government policymakers which says, let's redefine all our 800 crafts listed by the government of India as industry and entitle them to all the advantages that industries are entitled to, all the subsidies and so on. Instead of seeing them as artifacts of the past, which we must museumize and so on, let's look at them as possible creative avenues of livelihood and other generation. Is that a good thing to fight for or not? One should ask people like Ilango. And then build a whole vision around it. Do the calculations, employ young economists to do the calculations as to how many livelihoods can be sustained with, say, textile production in this village. I mean, a country which has had a long tradition of rural industry, what happened? Are we still going to keep surrendering to some Manchester? I mean, why? Why should we? So let's be more nationalistic for a change than the nationalists. As far as institutional building is concerned, I think we should not hasten the question. Let's put the question to people who, live at the grassroots and ask them. Because otherwise the vanguard will return. One form or another, the vanguard has to return if there is an institution.
But you had a lot of assumptions about what I was assuming in making the statement. Because what I was saying is that you have to have, if you're talking about a bottoms-up approach, a grassroots approach, then it's the people's institutions that develop, that have to decide whatever happens, which has never been the case in history so far, really speaking, except in pockets.
Well, that's why I'm saying the basis of
I'm not finished. The other thing is that we are talking all the time about different kind, like for example today's technology, which has globalized and which has done whatever it has done. But then the whole question of technology has always determined civilizations, where they happen and how they happen. Technology can come anywhere. Civilizations can come anywhere. First time we are having a globalized civilization which has emanated, which happened to be in Europe. It could have happened anywhere else.
Those are assumptions you make. I would say that certain cultures would not produce those kinds of technologies.
Maybe.
There's no determinism.
I'm not deterministic. Yeah, I am deterministic to a certain extent that there is, if we read history, then we also have to see the progression of history and where it is going.
What I heard John and Walter saying, the voicing doesn't happen because it's a very local phenomena. With a very, the scale is very small. Mm-hmm. And all solutions one is thinking of is something that will, work at a large scale. Whereas, and they can't find legitimacy because it doesn't have a translation because the multiplicity of this has to also be taken into account. And it's a very local phenomenon. I mean, it's only with for example, Murgesh's or even my community's way of handling the panchayat. Mm-hmm. is a very, very local phenomenon.
Mendaleka is a governance, of the local.
Actually, Mama wanted to go.
As far as I know, I don't know the whole story, but I know people like Mohanlal,
Mohan Hirabai.
Mohan Bhai Hiranal is an outsider. Okay, but he's one person. In that whole thing, how many outsiders have been involved in creating that consciousness and then the governance that has come out of it? These are their ideas. Are they really their ideas? I don't know, because I have not really gone there. But from what all has been written, what is being said, because I heard a 2-hour long thing in TDH, they presented, this guy came and spoke about the history of the whole thing. From whatever I have understood is that all this, how to govern themselves and that thing, is something that has come from within. It's not come from outside. Now if it has, that means that in some pocket, in some part of the country, in some small little place, people still know how to govern themselves. That somehow somebody, and maybe I think Mohan Bhai has had a hand in this, I don't know, because
He has.
from going in from inside, working there for 30 years, he has done something to bring it out, maybe, or give it the legitimacy, maybe, I don't know. But if it is possible there, it should be possible elsewhere, that there must be that sense of governance, that sense of what the larger system is all about. Wisdom must be there, yeah.
The lesson there is that you immersed yourself in this community, maybe in another avatar earlier and maybe another avatar now. But you've been there 37 years. You immersed yourself in that community. He has immersed himself for that so many decades over there. And he has built links with other people in the cities. So therefore that organic link which is necessarily there between the rural and the urban is there. But it also requires that we immerse ourselves over there. And how many of us are willing to immerse, because this cross-cultural and this cross thing of ideas, culture, even technology and whatever else it is, or ideas of democracy or whatever it is. What they say, the proof of the pudding is in the pie. And therefore, that's just something that has come in Mendaleka. Therefore, the same thing I can say what you've done in the cooperatives and the whole. I mean, you must be one of the few people, I'm talking about the women's group, who have not taken money from outside. Whereas everybody else was just forced, or whatever it is, directed to take money from outside. It has a totally different dimension altogether. So there is a contribution. But there is also, therefore, how do you have that immersion maybe is something that we need to look at as the way in which we'll bridge this divide which has happened completely between the rural and the urban.
I came across a book which a friend of mine who teaches at Azim Premji University sent it to me some time back, the PDF of the book. It's published in 1915. It's written by a British administrator called Matthias, I think his name is. And it's called Village Governance in India. It's 250 pages of documentation of governance systems in so many different parts of the country. I haven't gone through the whole of it, but what he tells you is pretty remarkable stuff.